Jesus speaks 2 lines today. The first is, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." Then in the next story, he says to the man, "Ephatha," which means be opened. This gospel reading makes us wonder, who is this Jesus? We want to believe in the compassionate, loving Christ, yet here we experience him as a bit different today. He is just rude to this woman. Perhaps sometimes we put so much weight on his being divine that we forget he was also human. We forget to ask ourselves, what does it mean for Jesus to be fully human? And in the story, he has slipped away, seeking respite and privacy in the Gentile territory in the city of Tyre. And this woman, when we call her the Syro-Phoenician woman, whose daughter has an unclean spirit, has heard of this famous healer, this holy man who has come to her town. She comes and bows at his feet with humility, respectfully begging for relief and release for her daughter. And he says to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." Yes, he is calling her and her daughter dogs. He lets her know they are not worthy. His mission is to his own kind. He has come to draw the Jewish nation, the lost children of Israel, to God. Now, in my 21st century mind, I imagine her rising up off her knees, looking him in the eye, and with all the fierceness of a mother challenging him. Yet in Jesus' time, and still in the Middle East today, especially now, she most likely continued to kneel at his feet, head lowered, as she quips, "Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." She responds to him in the rhetorical style of the men in the synagogue, completely unfit behavior for a woman of the time. She's so far out of line. She's a Gentile woman who has the audacity to speak to a man who is Jewish. Totally off. And she will not be put down or pushed aside. She will stop at nothing for the love of her child. And she challenges him to be open, to be moved beyond the children of Israel, to see her, to hear her request, to heal her daughter. And we can say that he was tired or cranky and he didn't want to be bothered with a person who is not of Israel, much less this woman. But often it is when we are tired and cranky and not wanting to be bothered that the most profound opportunities come. And we are challenged to grow, to be open to new possibilities. Her faith, audacity, determination, as well as a quick wit, engages him, catches him up short, and he is moved. The daughter is healed through her mother's faith. It was an impersonal verbal exchange that brought forth healing over a distance. And Jesus is opened to the possibility of his ministry going beyond the children of Israel to all people. The faith he encountered in her is greater than the faith of his own people. And when he returns to Jewish territory, he encounters a group who have brought their deaf friend, who also has a speech impediment, to him. This healing is in contrast to the other, as it is very intimate. Jesus takes the man aside. He puts his fingers in his ears, spits on his fingers, touches his tongue, looks to heaven and says, "Be opened." And immediately the man is able to hear and speak clearly. In both these stories, it was love and faith of others, interceding for those in need, that moved Jesus. Those who were healed were outside the realm of the in crowd. A Gentile girl would have had no standing, and a person with any physical imperfection would have been considered to be less than whole, their imperfection a result of some sin. They were outcast. Have you ever felt like an outcast? Have you yourself felt the need to be seen, heard, for someone to acknowledge your pain? Or have you been moved to open, to be present to another's need, to be seen or heard? Have you taken time to listen, to truly listen, to see them, and in doing so, bring healing? Compassionate, merciful love moves beyond us and moves us beyond personal justification and opens our hearts to hear another's plea, to see another's distress, moves us beyond anger, tiredness, frustration, to a place where there is leniency, clemency, and charity, a place where God's grace is made manifest through us and others are healed. And it is faith that helps us go beyond, to go beyond personal hurt, disappointment, opinion, even judgment, all that binds us up to being blind and deaf and unable to speak. Faith that moves us to be opened, to be able to see, hear, and speak with clarity. It moves us to mercy and love. And today's world needs more mercy, more compassion, and much more love. A love that listens and intervenes for others. As we look at the situations throughout the world, we see people who are housed in refugee camps, many others seeking escape from oppressive regimes, some standing up for their rights in the face of oppressive regimes. And there are many who have lost everything to fires, floods, earthquakes, and hurricanes, and families struggling to survive in the face of COVID and the loss of loved ones. The sheer amount of catastrophes is vast, and we are easily overwhelmed in the face of the tsunami of suffering. We may be bracing ourselves, and our hearts may have hardened as we close ourselves off and stay in our bubble just to be able to cope. Like Jesus, we too may be seeking a bit of respite from the storm, only to be confronted by need to be open to the greater world. We hear in James, if we do well, if we really fulfill the royal law, which is, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love is the benchmark of being a follower of Jesus. Love casts out fear, embraces hurt, need, and vulnerability. Love listens another into wholeness. So what would it take to open your eyes to see disparity, to move your hearts to mercy, to embrace works that serve all God's children in need? All human beings are God's children. Be opened. And if you're struggling with how to meet the needs, then you are overwhelmed. If you support Episcopal Relief and Development, they meet the needs in places where there have been catastrophes and disasters, and the people are hungry, both in this country and outside of it. just go on their website and send a gift, whatever it may be. Every little bit helps.